Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the morning show with RoD. Special guest today, Pio, and he's on the crypto side. For those of you who may not know him, quick intro: he's the co-founder of Bodoggos, which is they got their own little crypto line going. They do, I'll say, they sell various NFTs and much more. He's also in charge, well, partly in charge, I'll say, of a YouTube morning show, right? Competition, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. They have a show every morning at 9 a.m., which is entertaining, by the way, which is why I, always keep in touch with Pio. He's a fun guy. And quick fun fact, Pio is also the reason I started moving my ass on X, right? Before on X, he's like, what are you doing? Why do you keep posting YouTube links? And that's it, right? So he kind of reached out to me and basically taught me how to start it in the beginning aspects of making it its own, we'll say, social media. So I always appreciate him, for giving his time for that, and also letting me go on his show, which was I believe a couple months ago now. All right, Pio, for those that don't know you, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and your company?
For sure, man. Time flies, by the way. Time flies. All of a sudden, you're ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange and all that, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw my Bloomberg article.
I didn't see. You got a Bloomberg article?
Well, they did an article of the event, and I got the cover page, luckily. So,
wow,
because I did the whole Hogan pose,
That's epic. Wow, I'm sure your family thought that was pretty cool. Nice. So yeah, intro on me is just I've been in Bitcoin and crypto for 5 years. And so 5 years ago I started buying Bitcoin, and then not that long afterwards I started making content at that time about NFTs, which were, white hot. That was brand new stuff that was happening in late 2020, early 2021. I started making NFT content in February 2021. So that's pretty early for content in NFTs. There was other people that did it before, but that was absolutely pretty early. And yeah, through that process, I started a business that I still have now. We're 4 years in with my co-founder, Choose Rich Nick, which I'm sure some people have maybe seen. They've seen his face before on Twitter or on the internet, somewhere. And yeah, we have a media company, not dissimilar to you, where we partner with brands in crypto, 100% in crypto, to do influencer marketing, creator marketing campaigns. And then we also have an NFT project in market. But at the end of the day, I'm just, a guy that loves markets and loves investing. And so, I'm sure your audience wants to hear about that. So yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for being here. And for those, that know, this is early for Pio, so bear with him. It wasn't easy.
Do I just sound like I'm still asleep?
Yeah, I had to set the alarm at his house and wake him up right now. But no, I appreciate you getting up because I know this is not like a normal time to do an interview on YouTube or X. So. So let's start with Bitcoin, right? Let's because obviously a lot of the people here, they are Bitcoiners because, well, they own Misty, which means they like MSTR, which means they're fans of Bitcoin. So can you tell us kind of maybe how you got started with Bitcoin when you first heard about it? You said you invested it in 5 years ago. How'd you buy it? Who told you about it?
There we go. I don't know what was going on.
My camera's going a little funky. I don't know if you heard me. But.
No, I did hear you. Yeah. So when I first bought Bitcoin, I first heard about Bitcoin. My first memory of hearing about Bitcoin was in 2014 when I was living in Los Angeles, and a guy that I worked with, I was working a sales job at that time, a guy that worked at my sales firm, his roommate, we were 24 years old or whatever, 25 years old. His roommate was mining Bitcoin. And that guy, the roommate mining it, was not like a guy I wanted to be. So I think that I sort of like I didn't really think much of it. I was like, yeah, okay, like whatever, right?
It was a little weird, or
No, it's not even that. His dad was like super duper rich, and he was just like full of BS. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like he was just a rich kid that like he never had a job, and it was always like one get rich quick scheme, to another. But out of all the get rich quick schemes, this was the one that was actually right. But
yeah,
hindsight's 2020. Then in 2017, I moved to New York, and I got a job with this company that got acquired by IBM. And I have a memory of when I joined that job, the week I joined, one guy on the team from Australia was leaving because he had just made $100,000 off Bitcoin. And that was another memory I had. I was like, okay, like, I don't know. Then in 28 or 2019, I'm just giving everyone the breadcrumbs here because it's funny how all of a sudden this is like my whole life. And you think about all the times that you heard about it but did nothing
yeah.
about it. In
I know.
2018 in New York in 2018 or 2019, a friend of a friend, I was at my buddy's house and his friend was there. And the guy was just like kind of talking about Bitcoin. And the way he presented it to me was he presented it as a gamble. He was like, it's $2,000 right now. He didn't explain that you could buy fractional shares.
Yeah,
If he had explained that it was natively fractional and that you could just buy any amount of Bitcoin that you want, I shouldn't have said fractional shares because it's not a stock, but anyway. And so I viewed it as like I'd have to risk $2,000. The $2,000 could go to zero, which I bet a lot of people, like normal people, think of Bitcoin that way even now.
oh yeah.
So those were like the history of Bitcoin. The other thing is I watched the show Silicon Valley, which if you haven't watched the show Silicon Valley on HBO, it's like so good and it still stands up now. But I was watching it again recently and they talk about Bitcoin on that show. And I watched every episode of that show back in the day. So I must have heard about it, but I have no recollection of that. But when I actually got into it was when COVID happened. I was living in New York City. And the first weekend that New York City was shut down from COVID, I said to myself, I'm not going to be like, watching TV shows or movies or like, doing whatever, playing video games or any of that stuff. I have to like get better at something or learn about something. And I guess because I was like remote and it was, you couldn't go and do anything. I couldn't go to the gym, couldn't do anything because everything was shut down. I don't know why, but I just started watching YouTube videos. And the two things I started learning about was Tesla stock. And then I saw an interview between Anthony Pompliano and Chamath Palihapitiya, of all people. Chamath from the All In podcast didn't know who either of them were, but they were talking about Bitcoin. And Pomp described Chamath as a billionaire. So I was like, all right, well, this guy must know what's up if he's literally a billionaire. Like, I don't know. He must be quasi-legitimate. And that one video was the very beginning of my Bitcoin rabbit hole. I bought it, started buying it shortly thereafter, like $20 buys, $10 buys. And that was at the beginning in March, April 2020. And by the end of that year, I had one Bitcoin and then Bitcoin ripped to 30K.
So what'd you use then? Like Coinbase? There weren't
Those
many options, right?
The first buys were on Robinhood. And that was when you couldn't even it wasn't even really buying Bitcoin because you couldn't withdraw it. You were just buying the price. And so maybe in like August or September, I was watching a different YouTuber and that guy recommended Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, who I actually partner with now, funny enough. And I switched to Gemini and that was when I started buying real Bitcoin. I got like a Treasure, like the physical, hardware wallet and all that.
Not your wallet, not your Bitcoin, right? Is that what
Not
they
your
say?
keys, not your cheese, man.
Yeah, not your key. Yeah. I still buy on Robinhood. I do $10 a day I buy on Robinhood.
Nice.
It's easy, automatic, boom, 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 right? But no, that's crazy. So it was COVID time, huh? COVID did good for a lot of things. So you were still working then, working from home, and then you kind of learned about it. So this, I guess, Bodog. I'm looking at your YouTube. I think 3 years ago you started it. So obviously that was post COVID, or maybe you started it earlier. It looks like you were kind of on Twitter before. So did you do that as well? Like, did you create the business at the same time or around then?
Yeah. So when I first got into making the content in 2021 for NFT stuff, I started working with these guys that were NFT guys. And from like April or May, because I like working on teams. That's just the kind of the way I am, is like it's easier for me to like the solo entrepreneur thing is not really my thing. You know, some people like absolutely love that. It's not really my thing. And so I like working on teams. And so I joined this team in like April or May in the NFT space. And I started getting traction on their YouTube channel. I got their YouTube channel. Well, it was really my YouTube channel, but like under their brand name. And it got to 200,000 followers, or excuse me, 200,000 views, which I viewed as a win at that time. It was really starting to get traction.
Yeah.
But I had a falling out with them because of the way that they like operated. Like it's actually a pretty typical crypto story. It's like people that would sell NFT stuff, people that sell token stuff.
You got rugged, right?
Yeah, literally, basically, man. I mean, like people just can't resist. They think like $1 million is like so much money, and they'll just end the whole thing for like $1 million. They're just like, you know, that's the end of that, right? So I basically like kind of got rugged, right? And then I was already talking to Nick a little bit, my current co-founder, and then me and him started the YouTube channel, and right away, because Nick's so good at content, right? Nick's like incredibly talented. So it was like, oh, right away, I was like, oh, this is way better. I need to like do a podcast with this guy. Then we started doing the Twitter spaces. That was like electric right away. And so we just started the business. And like by November, we raised venture money for it. We raised like $1.1 million for the business at that time, because Nick kind of comes from that world. So that was something that he was able to pull off. And it was quite frankly not even hard for him to get that done at that time. And then in January, we sold our first NFT project that did like, I don't know, 1.8 million. So out of nowhere, we had like $3 million to run the business.
Nice. So Nick had the name in the space already, kind of. Then how'd you meet Nick?
Nick had the name from Web 2, from like traditional tech versus crypto. Okay. And so like this traditional tech guy was getting into crypto. The VCs love that narrative. That's easy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a character for sure. And I always say I like when you two are on your channel, because you're always arguing, right? Because I think he's against MSTR, and that's clear based on his latest tweets, right? And
he's just like he can natively be like an antagonist, quite frankly, you know? So,
yeah, maybe he likes that spot.
he likes being an antagonist. And like, you know, if we want to talk about like investing stuff a little bit, Nick bought Bitcoin. You can look up tweets. People have dug them up on Nick's account. You can look up tweets from like 2013, 2014, where he's pumped about buying Bitcoin for like $70 and selling it for 120. It's so funny. And like, everyone's like, great trade, buddy. Like great trade, you know, it's wicked funny stuff, you know, but,
he's the pizza guy, right?
Nick is not, well, Nick owns Microstrategy. I don't think he would own it if it wasn't for me. I think that's why he owns it. And I think that if it wasn't for me, Nick would also be a guy that would just like dump on Michael Saylor hardcore on Twitter, like in a big way. He did like dump on MicroStrategy 2 weeks ago. But what people don't like understand is that that's just Nick figuring out that he can trigger an entire group of people. And I feel like MicroStrategy people are actually smarter and like less autistic than normal crypto people are, for sure, because it's mostly like TradFi guys. So it only took until the second video for the MicroStrategy people to figure out that it was a joke. So it was like really fun for me to watch the first video trigger a bunch of people. You know, like I can name all the names, but all the big MicroStrategy people were triggered by the first video. Then Nick, you know, that's giving Nick some real fuel. So he's like, that's juicy. So he goes and makes the second video. But the second video, you could tell like it was a joke. You could tell. And almost every single one of the MicroStrategy people figured out it was a joke by the second video. With the crypto people, dude, they just never will figure out that it's a joke. It's just like over and over again. They just get mad. And it's funny. And that's why Nick just prints engagement on Twitter.
Yeah, he knows how to play the game right, you know.
Yeah.
So those videos do well, and I enjoy your videos, as you know, your acting, I'll say, on
thank you.
I
take pride in it.
With I think you and Clemente do it a lot, but he's always on there more though. I guess he wants to be an actor maybe, but
Clemente is just brilliant when it comes to Twitter engagement stuff.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into MSTR. So obviously you own Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
Then I don't know, how'd you hear about MSTR, and were you skeptical on that, or were you like, all right, they're just buying Bitcoin, and I'm gonna hang along, come for the ride? or is it Michael Saylor? Michael Saylor is the one that got me finally committed to Bitcoin. So I'm not sure if it was just Michael Saylor's words of wisdom, or
Yeah. So, well, Bitcoin is my biggest position in terms of my investing by far, and it's been my biggest life-changing decision ever, is just buying Bitcoin and not selling it ever, including, excuse me, because I was buying, my first buys were at like $6,700. I posted on Twitter, because I pulled up Robinhood and I looked them up, and my first buys were $6,700, but like $20 at a time, $30 at a time, right?
Yeah.
But got to one Bitcoin before that ripped to 30K in 2020, right? So buying that whole time and then just continuing to buy for all of 2021, including at the top, like including it at like north of 60K, right? And then just didn't sell any of it. And it went all the way back down to 16K. And I kept buying, right? I wish that, I think I had like 120K in cash or something like that when it was 16K. So if I just chips on the table, put everything in there, that's an extra what? Like 6 Bitcoins almost, or something like that. But in the moment, right? In the moment, it's hard. Like,
you don't know. Yeah. That could be, the bottom could be worse.
Yeah. Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, like a top 3 global exchange, just went down. That didn't have any impact on my conviction in Bitcoin at all. And you can ask anybody that was in crypto at that time on my like podcast at that time, the Twitter Spaces. I was like, this FTX thing has nothing to do with Bitcoin. And everyone's like, no, it's going to be terrible for Bitcoin, all that stuff. Obviously, it lowered the price, but it had no reflection on Bitcoin. This was just like one guy being a crook with his crypto exchange. It doesn't impact Bitcoin. But at the time, it's like different. People are throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? But at 16K, everyone was saying it was going to go to 8K. So the idea of just like, I got an apartment and stuff. I can't literally lose, I can't move back to my mom's house and all that stuff, right? So it was like, I couldn't go all in. But I mean, I effectively did, because the second it started climbing again, I was like, all right, cool, let's keep plowing in. And then the big thing was when BlackRock filed for the ETF, which if you look it up is only like 6 to 9 months after the FTX bottom or something like that. You can check me on that date, but I remember looking back at it and being like, wow, it wasn't even that much time from the FTX debacle that BlackRock filed for the ETF. And within maybe 72 hours of BlackRock filing for the ETF, I found out that BlackRock had filed for like something like 400 ETFs in the past, and they'd gotten 399 out of the 400 approved. And the only one that they didn't get approved was because of some technicality, and they refiled and got that one approved. So everyone was like, this Bitcoin ETF is happening. So when that happened, I was just swinging the bat. I was like, oh, let's go 7K of Bitcoin, 8K of Bitcoin, like just chucking it in. So I built a lot. I built my position even more during that period, and Bitcoin was under 25K at that time. Bitcoin lived between 16 and 25K for like over a year. And then when everyone caught on that the ETF was going to be a big deal, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and Bitcoin were just like absolutely shredding. You asked me about MicroStrategy. And sorry if I'm rambling. I gave you the full context there.
Yeah, that's good.
MicroStrategy, I found out about in October 2020. That's when Saylor kind of like burst onto the scene the way that he did. So at that time, think about it, I'm like 6 or 7 months into my Bitcoin accumulation, and Saylor just comes out the gate, and he's Saylor. Like at that time, he's Saylor, right? He's not a different guy. He's fucking Michael Saylor. Sorry if I can't curse on here. And okay. And dude, he's Michael Saylor. So obviously I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. But it had impact in terms of Bitcoin for me. Not really. My instinct wasn't, let me plow a bunch of money into MicroStrategy at that time, especially since it ripped so hard immediately once everybody found out what he was doing. But I did buy it in my IRA. So I have a bunch of shares of MicroStrategy with like a ridiculously low cost basis compared to where it's at now in my IRA. And I also bought it in my mom's account. So for a long time, my mom actually had more MicroStrategy than me, because I wanted to buy stuff with her in her financial accounts versus on-chain Bitcoin. She does have some on-chain Bitcoin too. But yeah. So that was the start of MicroStrategy for me.
Yeah. So are you just buying both now, equally weighted, or are you buying other Bitcoin treasury companies as well? Or does it kind of MSTR, and then there's the rest of the shit we'll call them the shit coins of the cap, and the Bitcoin reserve companies.
I mean, they are. They're literally, they literally are. But so anyway, the big moment for me with MicroStrategy was I had a bunch of with my mom's accounts, I had a bunch of Coinbase and a bunch of MicroStrategy. And with my accounts, I had MicroStrategy in the IRA, and I had Coinbase that I'd bought. Like I was buying Coinbase for $60 a share when the SEC sent the Wells notice to Brian Armstrong, because I was just like, dude, like 60, like it just at some point the thing's gonna go up, and so I just like threw money at it, And there was they both had earnings. Saylor announced his biggest ATM ever, which was like, I don't know, $42 billion plan or $21 billion plan, one of those plans, right? He announced that, and Brian Armstrong announced that they were going to do share buybacks, like the old way, right? The new way is buy Bitcoin, the old way was share buybacks, right? And the market loved the MicroStrategy announcement, and the market hated the Coinbase announcement. And that was the first time that I was like, yo, like this is actually nuts. This MicroStrategy thing is going crazy. And then I started going hard on MicroStrategy, and I accumulated a bunch of shares of MicroStrategy, like not just in my IRA, but just in my brokerage account. And then I started learning about trading options earlier this year on MicroStrategy, like selling options, which is your world. And here we are, right? Yeah. Selling options on MicroStrategy. So then I was like, wait a minute. So I can get pretty significant income over time with just owning this thing that I already wanted to own. So then I went hard. And so now I'm up to like, call it like almost 2,000 shares of MicroStrategy and just selling options on it all the time. I'm extremely conservative with how much or the strike prices of my options right now this second, because I don't want to miss the big explosive move. And so I'm going to for sure leave option money on the table, but I don't want to leave, equity value on the table.
Wait, hold on. Did you sell options over the announcement on Friday?
Yeah.
You have options going right now.
Yes, I have $500 strike expiration of this Friday is what I have.
Okay. All right.
That
So
feels
you're
safe.
willing. What's that?
That feels safe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's super safe. So I mean, obviously it didn't pay out too much, I'm sure, but you still wanted to collect because that volatility was nuts, right? And I'm not sure, did you have a thought on if it was going to get added into the S&P, or did you think they're not really, Wall Street doesn't like them, and it's just not happening right now?
I thought there was a 0% chance it was going to get into the S&P.
So why the 500 strike? Come on.
Because you never, dude, the market could feel that it's bullish that it didn't get, like, dude, Mr. Market, like, as soon as you get into trying to predict like the short-term moves of the market, you're losing. It's over. Like that's my position. Eric Jackson, the hedge fund guy that's doing Open Door Technologies right now, which we can talk about too at some point if you want. He says if you're explaining you're losing, which I totally agree. If you're like explaining what's going on, you're losing. I think if you're trying to trade short-term market moves, you're losing, dude. I've never met anybody that's doing that is actually rich. Like, I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but I come from crypto, dude, where everybody is doing short-term trading and everybody's broke, and people have been in crypto longer than me. And I'm like, after watching Bitcoin have the impact on my life that it's had over 5 years, how have you been in crypto since 2017, random guy on Twitter, and you're broke? It makes zero sense to me. You could have been buying Bitcoin for $300 in 2017, 2016. How are you broke now? So it took me a long time to wrap my head around that. I did not understand how people were broke and knew what Bitcoin was. I just had zero understanding. But then I realized it's because they treat the space like a casino and they just do short-term gambling and they don't hold anything. They don't hold Bitcoin.
They want the lottery ticket. They want the quick win. They don't have the patience to get rich later. It's not attractive to get rich later. You know what I mean? So they want to get rich now. So I know, and we'll get into Misty in a second, but real quick, you hold obviously a lot of Bitcoin. Have you ever borrowed on your Bitcoin? Because I know that is an option nowadays on some of the platforms.
So that's going to be a huge financial industry sector for the long term, right? Because all the people that have Bitcoin now in like 15 years, the amount of like the Bitcoin that people have now is going to be worth this like ungodly amount of money. So it'll be very easy for them to get like a good LTV loan. Like they'll just be able to buy a summer home, like grab the mortgage down payment or something by borrowing against the Bitcoin. It's not going to be a big deal because if you have like, $15 million of Bitcoin, it's not going to be that significant. I don't do it. I don't think that the sector is where it needs to be yet. I think it's fantastic that it's trending in the right direction. I think a big part is that it's not crypto people doing it, because for the longest time it was like crypto people like Sam Bankman-Fried and Sergey Mashinsky, or whatever the guy's name is, Alex Mashinsky, the guy that's going to jail and all that, people that are just literally criminal bozos. So it's nice that there's legitimate people trying to get it off the ground, and it's going to get off the ground. And there will be the Amazon of Bitcoin lending, or the BlackRock of Bitcoin lending. So it'll be like the trusted entity. I don't do it, but what I do is I have margin on Robinhood, and I have like a decent amount of margin right now. It's not even giving me anxiety, but in the back of my head, I'm like, you got to lower that. You got to get that margin down. But I do have margin right now. I obviously make more money with the options that I sell versus the interest that I pay on the margin. But that's the extent of my borrowing, is the margin. The thing I like about the margin is that Robinhood gives you such like an insane line of credit with the margin. And I know, that, look, if you are a gambler, do not use margin. Literally, if you are a gambler, do not use margin. But if you're not a gambler and you're just like a level-headed person that invests for the long term, margin's like incredibly powerful. And that's me. I just do not gamble at all, right? And the option selling that I'm doing, if you think that's gambling, I just disagree, because it's like, if Microstrategy rips to $500 on this Friday and I get the shares called away, the level of a W that is for me would just be insane, and all my margin would be wiped immediately. I'd have no margin. So yeah,
you'd have a smile on your face anyway. You want my shares? All right, I'm happy. But you can honestly just roll them anyway and let it settle down. You could probably get it, expire worthless. But so you on Robinhood, I guess you don't own Bitcoin on Robinhood, because I know you can't borrow margin. I don't believe so on Bitcoin.
You'd have to do IBIT. Yeah, you'd have to do IBIT.
Okay, so you probably maybe have MSTR. Do you do options on Robinhood with your MSTR? Or do you
I think Robinhood's the best. I mean, I worked at Robinhood too, by the way, for like a year before I started this company. I think Robinhood's a really good company. I own Robinhood shares, not even from when I worked there. I sold all the shares at that time to buy Bitcoin. It was like 900 shares. It wasn't even that much. But now I've invested in Robinhood. I think I have a couple hundred shares in my Robinhood account of Hood stock, but and I've tried selling options on that. It's not a good stock to sell options on, in my opinion. MicroStrategy, in my opinion, is the best stock to sell options on. It's not even close. IBIT's not bad either, because in my mom's accounts, I sell options on IBIT. And actually in my business, we have a Fidelity account for the business. And I have a bunch of 200 shares of MicroStrategy, and then a ton of IBIT, like 2,200 shares or something that I sell options on all the time. Selling options on IBIT is like beautiful for your business, because it's like, you're just going to win no matter what. It's, if it goes down and we're selling options, okay, cool. We got more monthly revenue. If it goes up and you get called, who cares? You have more money than would have either way. So that's awesome. And it took me a little bit to convince Nick to let me do that, but he like gets it now, and he doesn't even ask questions about it. It's pretty great. So anyway, you were asking, so I have MicroStrategy in the Robinhood account. I don't have IBIT, but if someone's trying to get started with some of this stuff and they want to be operating with Bitcoin, I actually think IBIT is a great way to do it, because what's 100 shares of IBIT? Like $5,000. And, more people probably can put $5,000 down for 100 shares of IBIT and start selling options on it than can put 40 grand down or 35 grand down for 100 shares of MicroStrategy to start selling options on it. The caveat is there's probably going to be another MicroStrategy stock split as soon as it goes to like $1,000 or $1,500. So if you buy 10 shares of MicroStrategy right now, that's probably 100 shares of MicroStrategy within 2 to 3 years, or less. We'll see. Or more. You never know. But the thing is the premium on IBIT's not that good. But once you build a huge stack of IBIT, the premium is actually interesting. So, gotta have a strategy.
But you're talking to a lot of options degenerates here too, though. So we're looking at MSTU, $5, right? So yeah, that's double leverage MSTR.
If you're an options degenerate, buy call options on Open Door Technologies right now. That's my position. If you do that, I think I'm going to buy my first option ever, probably this week, on Open Door Technologies. Have you paid any attention to Open Door?
I haven't, and I've never bought an option either. But yeah, keep me in the loop on that. Maybe I'll join you because I've actually finally starting to entertain the thought of it using my options premium that I'm generating from the, the selling, because why not, right? If you're making enough on there and you could put aside a portion for, I'm not going to say the lottery ticket, but for what you believe in long term. So what's your plan on that? And, or I guess you were going to talk about the company. What is it? Open Door.
Yeah. So I follow this guy in Bitcoin. I've interviewed him before. Mike Alfred. Big fan of Mike Alfred. I think he's an animal when it comes to investing. He called Iris Energy, Iron, at, I don't know, $2 or $3. I have a buy on Iron from December 2023 after I interviewed Mike Alfred for $3.75 or something, which is nuts because it's at $27 right now. I actually didn't hold all the way through. The Bitcoin miners are a pretty tough hold, and I don't think I had deep enough conviction. I got really into MicroStrategy, kind of put all my money into that. If I had held Iron all the way through, obviously it would have been good. It went as low as $8 like 4 months ago. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, Mike Alfred is like a guy that's big on the Bitcoin miners, Iron, and other companies like that. And through him, I found out about this guy, Eric Jackson, because Mike Alfred started tweeting about Eric Jackson. And Eric Jackson is a Canadian hedge fund manager. And Eric Jackson was big on Iron and another Bitcoin miner called Cipher Mining, CIFR. And the reason, real quick side note on Iron and Cipher, why I like them, why I hold I got like 50K of those, right? So it's a pretty significant position for me, but not as big as like the MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin position, right? Iron and Cipher Mining are interesting because they're traditional Bitcoin miners. They're running great Bitcoin mining businesses. I mean, Mike Alfred talks about how cheap the cost to mine one Bitcoin is for Iron versus the cost of Bitcoin. And that gap right there is obviously all it's profitable, right? So great companies in that regard. But Mike Alfred's been talking about for like literally 2 years that big tech, Google, Meta, OpenAI, all these companies, they are going to need more computational power, better data center, just more robust data center, access for their AI, because AI takes so much computational power that they're going to turn to Bitcoin miners. He's been saying this for 2 years. Okay. And I was like, that sounds good. That sounds like it makes sense. But I was like, is that really going to happen? Is Google going to start buying like Bitcoin mining companies? Like, it feels too good to be true, right? It's too close to you, right? Because so they're just going to come and buy stuff from my world. Like, does that really make sense? Dude, 3 weeks ago, Google buys an 8% stake in TeraWulf Mining. I was like, oh my God, he was right. I can't believe it. Like for 2 years, he's saying this and it was right. So people are comparing that to the Bitcoin ETF moment, which is like the big validation moment for a lot of people when it came to Bitcoin. Obviously, I already knew Bitcoin was the thing, but like a lot of people thought Bitcoin was just a scam. Then BlackRock files for the ETF. Everyone's like, oh, wow. So now everyone's like, wow, this Bitcoin mining thesis is real. Google really did it. They bought 8% of a Bitcoin miner. So sorry, I digressed. But that's a big moment for the Bitcoin mining companies. So that sector is huge. So to Eric Jackson. Eric Jackson's big on Cipher Mining, on Iron, and then the third stock he came out with saying it was a 100-bagger. And his background, by the way, is he called Carvana at like $11, right? It went as low as, I don't know, $4 or $6 off of a $400 top or something like that, $350 top, all the way down 99% to $3 or $4. He calls it on the way back up at $11. He calls it because his like proprietary AI software at his hedge fund said that there was deep value there. Dude, Carvana's at like $360 right now, right? So that's like a true 100 bagger. Yeah. And he says the next 100 bagger is Open Door Technologies. So I checked it out. I'm like looking at it. I buy a little bit. I was like, this is interesting. The amount of motion that Open Door Technologies has right now, I think it's like the hottest stock in the world over the past like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. This thing just wants higher. It wants $10. It seems like it's at like $7 right now. My average cost, I have 5,500 shares. Average cost is like $3.85. I would not sell options on this thing because you're gonna get assigned. It's like automatic. You're just going to get assigned. It is what it seems like. I'd maybe sell put options on it if you're gonna do anything, or I'm probably gonna buy call options. But the TLDR on it is it was a SPAC in 2021 through Chamath. It topped out at $30, went down 99% to 50 cents, basically a dying company at that point. It's essentially kind of like Carvana, but for houses. There's some differences there, but they want to shape it to be like the Uber of houses or the Airbnb of residential real estate. Because buying residential real estate is still a pain in the ass. Carvana has made it so that now when you buy a used car, it's just so easy. It's like buying it from Amazon. My business partner literally just bought a car off Carvana.
Like a button, right?
It's so easy. And the TLDR is they weren't set up properly. They have like a weird board, and that's still actually a huge issue. And they had this CEO that was a CFO. She was a corporate finance lady. Eric Jackson basically announced that buy by his company, and the stock pumped from 50 cents to $5. It literally 10x in like 3 weeks. Then they had an earnings call. Everyone was urging the CEO at the time, Carrie Fisher. This is like 4 weeks ago. Carrie Fisher to do a video call for earnings, similar to what Palantir does, similar to what MicroStrategy does. That's really kind of the new way to do it, is do like a video podcast for your earnings call, basically. She refused to do it, did a phone call, had no energy. She's just droning on like old stuff. This is not how the new world operates. Market hates it. Market hated the earnings call. It dumps from $5 to like $1.75. I'm like, this is very bad. Eric Jackson's on Twitter just dumping on her. Keith Raboy, the co-founder of the company, big tech guy, he's dumping on her. I was like, this is horrible. Like, this is very much so going poorly. I'm down on my position, all this stuff, right? She steps down. The retail army and Eric Jackson and Keith Raboy get her to step down. She steps down. The market loves it. Stock starts ripping again. And now there's just a ton of motion and more people are getting in. They have to get a new CEO. And the thing right now that retail is calling for is for Keith Raboy to be put on the board.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So I guess there are some people asking what strike price you're going to use on your
honestly,
on your
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on Twitter today and I'm going to search on Twitter, $ open, ticker open, buy call, something like that, and call option. I'm just going to get a feel for what people are doing right now. I've never bought a call option before. Obviously, I'm like aware of how it works, and I've done it. Look, it is a gamble because you're literally placing a bet that it's going to be at a certain price on a certain date. That's a gamble. There's a clip of Michael Saylor talking about how the only time he lost money with Apple stock, because Saylor turned like $20 million and $500 million buying Apple and like Meta, all those different companies. So he's an investor. I mean, obviously he's played capital markets big time. The only time Saylor's lost money with Apple stock was buying a call option because he was off on when it was going to rip by like a month or by 2 months. So you are taking on a tremendous amount of risk. But yeah, I'm going to take a look. People are calling for $10 to be the floor of this. And like 2 weeks ago, I was thinking about buying call options at like $5.50 or $6 because the stock had so much motion. And I think I'd already be in the money on that if I had done it. So I'm sort of like, all right, what I would like to do is I'd like to have this thing pull back a little bit because it's going to pull back. It has to. These things have to pull back. They can't just shred all the way to $20, without any kind of pullback. And I think a lot of like retail crybabies basically will get shaken out when it pulls back. And that would probably be a really great time to buy a call option. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do you know what the implied volatility is on this? I haven't looked, but it sounds
I don't know,
it's
but it'd be high.
Yeah.
It's gonna be high, dude.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, I think everyone's I'm going to look into this too. But
I gave you guys something.
Like I said,
I gave everybody something.
Yeah. No, not financial advice, everyone. We'll make sure to clarify that at the end. But let's get into Misty, because the Misty Mafia is here, and they want to know, how did Pio get into Misty? Obviously, you understand options. You've done covered calls. You probably still do covered calls on MSTR. So if you're doing it yourself, well, how'd you hear about Misty? And then what made you interested, in buying Misty, assuming you did buy Misty and you still do. I'm not sure about that, but.
So I think the Misty Mafia is not going to, they like me for open right now, but they're just not going to like me for this. I think I'm going to be yeah. So look, I can only say what I truly believe. So I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm personally out on Misty, and I know that's probably not what you want to hear on this show, but I'm out
all
on
good. All good.
I think
Let's
I
hear
heard,
why.
yeah. How did I hear about Misty? I heard about Misty from probably Twitter, like MicroStrategy Twitter, and then British Hodl talking about it, and then your show. Then like someone in like one of the things was like, hey, if you guys are interested in Misty, you should watch this guy's show. Start watching your show every day in the morning, talking about Misty. And I bought into it at that time. There's a time I probably had 30 or 40 grand of Misty or something like that at one point. But then when I started getting into selling, MicroStrategy options myself, doing that, and then also seeing NVIDIA and Coney and or maybe not Cody, Tesla and NVIDIA, and seeing those charts over time, I started to get concerned. And I gradually got out of Misty. And I think at this point, I think I'm out on it because I think it's going to, that's funny, Richard Woolley here. I think that it's just going to underperform holding the underlying so hard over time. And I get that it's different, and I get that it serves a different purpose in the portfolio, and I get that people need income. But I think that I'd maybe even rather just hold big tech stocks that have dividends for income, or I'd just rather hold the MicroStrategy preferreds. Like, if you're going to take on volatility right now, Strike, ticker STRK, which is one of the MicroStrategy preferreds. It's actually the first preferred that he issued. That thing's got probably pretty good value because I think it's trading under its par value, which is $100 right now. Strife, ticker STRF. You're not getting the Misty level monthly payout.
Yeah.
Stretch is his monthly one that just came out. Again, it's not going to be similar to Misty, but it's going to be more stable, I think. So I just I'm more into the underlying and selling options on it, or I'm into maybe the preferreds. Like with my business, we own maybe 100, 150K of the preferreds, maybe closer to 200K at this point. Mix of the preferreds, but I wouldn't buy Misty with the company at this point,
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, especially hearing your latest strike price, like $500. It's clear that, number one, how to trade options. So you probably have the time to trade options. So those two things alone kind of eliminate the need for these funds, right? Because most people who invest in these funds, they either don't know options, don't want to know options, or they're working all day during the market hours.
Yeah.
Which again is unfortunate that nobody can trade options if they work full time. I always say that, right? So no, I'm not surprised. Because again, they have to stick with their prospectus and their guidelines, which means again they strive to yield on an annualized basis their IV. And even though the fact that MSTR IV is dropping, that's not too fantastic either. But again, they're going now 5% at most out of the money per week, and that would probably you probably wouldn't feel too good about that with MSTR, would you?
Well, so here's the deal. I think that there are going to be people that time Misty right and crush it. And that's how a lot of assets are. But for me I hold stuff for just forever, basically. And so it doesn't feel to me like something I want to hold forever. But I think you will see people on Twitter, at some point in the next year or year and a half or something, just showing ridiculous Misty dividends, and they're up on the Misty position. Probably won't outperform MicroStrategy, but people still like getting an $11,000 check in their brokerage account every month and talking about
they
paying
don't have to do anything. They don't have. I mean, granted, they pay 1%, but still, they don't have to do anything. And Misty since inception has paid more than 2 times over the launch price. So, people see that too. But at the same time, it's gone up to 40 something dollars, back down to 17, back up to 40. And then here we are at 15. So obviously a lot can happen. And they did add credit call spreads, which allows not for a complete cap on the upside. It allows for, if it does blow through, it can capture a lot of the upside. But again, yeah, it's going to lack the underlying long term. That's always people's argument. I'm like, that's not an argument. We know that's true, right? It's an income ETF. It pays out the income, and they have to do that through selling options, which limits the upside. But yeah, so you're out of the Misty Mafia. Good to know. If you're ever in trouble, don't call us. No, I'm just kidding. But I want to, in respect of time too, I want to see if the community has any, I'll say crypto related questions, because you are the expert here in crypto or NFTs. And also at the end, I want to pull up, some of your NFTs so you can explain to us what an NFT is.
Sure.
Actually, I'll start to do that now while the people ask questions. And while I'm doing that, Pio, is there anything else that you wanted to speak of? Get the word out on anything related to your Twitter or your channel?
The stuff in the market I'm most interested in is the Bitcoin mining sector, assets like Iron and Cypher Mining. Open Doors got the most motion right now in the stock market, in my opinion. And then obviously I'm a huge MicroStrategy guy, Coinbase guy. I've got some of that stablecoin stock, Circle, that went live. These are the things that I'm interested in. You got my YouTube channel right here. So that's so.
Yeah, Daily Bone, guys, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. He's got 45,000 subscribers. I got to catch up to them. So, soon enough.
You're actually growing. That's the difference. We're not growing anymore.
I think you're still growing, but you just do the morning show.
Charles Gray asked about marathon mining. I would just own Iron and Cypher Mining over Well, the thing about Marathon that's interesting is they're a Bitcoin treasury company, and I like that, and I think that they will perform well over time. But I think that Cypher Mining and Iron have more upside. They're newer, they're smaller, and they seem to really be baked into the AI play, the AI narrative, and narrative matters a lot. So there you go. Yeah.
And someone asked about BMNR. I believe that's
Tom Lee's,
right?
Yeah, Tom Lee's Ethereum treasury company. I think that all those finance guys rolled out of bed one day and decided that they wanted to try to pump Ethereum as hard as it could be pumped, because so many Bitcoin treasury companies came out. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that. I think the only other Bitcoin treasury company that I'm interested besides MicroStrategy is Metaplanet, and I do own a little bit of Metaplanet because it was like an actual original Bitcoin treasury company. It wasn't part of that stupid trend that happened where all of a sudden everybody was a Bitcoin treasury company. And by the way, everybody's going to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, but all these, it's just the same as crypto. Basically, a bunch of grifters just wanted to get money in an instant. And so they rebranded their companies as Bitcoin treasury companies, or they launched Bitcoin treasury companies. That's a totally different thing. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't throw MicroStrategy and Metaplanet out with the bathwater. Having said that, I think that BMNR will perform well when we get the crypto rip. I think Tom Lee's, I do think Tom Lee's kind of grifting with it, but I like Tom Lee. So in other words, I think it's going to go up, but it's not something I'm going to hold forever.
Do you hold Ethereum at all, or are you more of a just Bitcoin only?
Dude, Ethereum has underperformed Bitcoin so bad with Bitcoin, time is on your side. With every other crypto asset, time is against you. That doesn't mean that you can't trade it, and it doesn't mean that it won't outperform Bitcoin for a short spurt, but nothing can outperform Bitcoin long term. The only crypto asset that's outperformed Bitcoin over a long period of time is actually Doge.
Yeah.
Only Doge. That's it.
Isn't there a Doge treasury company coming?
Maybe.
Real quick before we get into some questions, these are the NFTs from Bodagos. There's a lot of them. So if you ever see someone with an icon on X that looks like this, like a dog, you can think of Pio now. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So NFTs. Oh, good.
No, I was gonna say I actually have some NFTs I bought many years ago. I don't think they're Bo dogs. I'll have to go check, but they're probably stolen at this point. I don't even know. They're in my trust wallet.
So yeah, I mean, look, NFTs are digital collectibles. It takes a really long time for the world to like catch up to this stuff. It just takes so long, just like it took so long for the world to even start to catch up to Bitcoin. The thing is everyone like just when they see the NFTs, they're like, okay, I'm gonna buy it, I'm gonna make money on it, and it's just like you have to chill out. So I would people watching the show literally don't buy my NFTs. Do not buy them. Like, and I know. No one would ever say, like, no NFT person says that. But the thing is all you can do with an NFT right now is you can buy it and you can sell it. And we've tried to do the IP thing. Dude, I have so many skate decks over here. I have Zippo lighters. I have T-shirts. I have hats. We've done all this stuff. The space isn't ready for any of that. All the people that are selling physical merch and physical collectibles with NFTs, the success that they have is because when they sell it, they're pairing it with a token. So if you buy like a Pudgy Penguins toy, it's because you get the token. So it's still just crypto people buying crypto, basically, even if they buy the physical thing. So this is going to take a long time for the world to catch up to. Pokemon cards are insanely hot right now. People love collectibles. People aren't ready for the digital collectibles yet. Over time, when the little kids right now that are playing Roblox and, you know, buying stuff on like the PlayStation store and the Xbox store, buying the digital stuff, skins in Counter-Strike, when those kids are like 40 and the new kids are just all digital, that's when you're just going to see that digital collectibles really are a thing. But like, I'm not the guy that's going to like, everyone's like, you know, what's the value, blah, blah, blah. Like, just shut up. Don't buy the NFT and just buy Bitcoin. Like, just shut up.
Where's the dog with the RoD shirt or RoD hat? You know, I don't see me on it. Yeah.
Get him in there.
Yeah, exactly. I'll buy that one. All right. So obviously, yeah, this is, I know he said don't buy them, but here are his NFTs. They're pretty funny.
So real quick, I got some comments to address here. Can we pull up Charles Gray, Bitcoin price by the target by the end of the year? Nobody knows.
Get to that. Yep.
Nobody knows, but maybe talk to an on-chain analyst like Will Clemente or Willie Woo or Plan C. Talk to those guys about that question. I'm probably going to talk to Plan C next month. Got something on the calendar with him. Those guys are going to be the best people to talk to about Bitcoin target by the end of the year. Nobody knows. It also doesn't matter.
Because you gotta have fun though. Come on. Give us a number. Come on.
I think 150K is possible. I think or 140 feels better because whatever everybody says, it's always lower. So maybe 135, 140K, which is very good. Amanda Love here. Amadora Love, sorry. She goes, Tom Lee saying BMNR can 100x in the next 2 to 3 years and that Ethereum can flip the Bitcoin price. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard ever. Ethereum will never, ever, ever, and I'm not dumping on you, Amadora, but it's like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. Ethereum's price will never, ever, 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 ever even come close to flipping the Bitcoin price. Never, ever, ever. It's
you know Chris Jericho or no?
Well, I watched wrestling when I was a kid.
Wrestling? Never, ever. I thought you were going to do that. All right.
Chris Jericho, dude. Never, ever, ever. It's underperformed Bitcoin for 6 years. The Ethereum guys, that's one of the weirdest things ever, dude. I got Ethereum guys in my replies all the time. And I'm like, dude, you've underperformed Bitcoin for 6 years. But they just won't stop. And they're like, no, I own no Bitcoin. I just do ETH. Dude, ETH came out and it cost 50 cents or $1. And a bunch of guys piled in because they felt like they missed Bitcoin because they just watched Bitcoin go from $1 to like $500. And they made ETH their whole personality. And then ETH went to $4,800, which is crazy because that's just how like crypto goes. And then as time goes on, time is on your side with Bitcoin and time is against you with everything else because Bitcoin is a decentralized commodity like gold that's taking over the world and doesn't need any human beings to do anything. And all the other cryptos, it's humans. It's like a company where you're trying to like figure it out. And dude, like humans, it's just going to slow things down compared to like the unstoppable force of Bitcoin. If somebody says that Ethereum's price is going to flip the Bitcoin price, you need to run away from that person. That's just such an insane statement, man. That's like if I say that the moon is going to crash into the earth next year or something. That's just a wild statement. So anyway, I just had to go ahead and
I think, whenever people mention Ethereum, XRP, whatever, I think they just feel like you said, oh, it's too late on Bitcoin, so let me try something else and believe in that and hope that it exceeds Bitcoin. But, I'm to the point, I'm just not even, I just buy Bitcoin and MSTR now. I don't care about these others, Ethereum, XRP. I used to buy shit coins too. I bought all the crap right back in the day. I was on all these little telegrams. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna find the next big one, and that's how I got into NFTs too. But yeah, I'm Bitcoin only, and that's just how it's gonna be. Michael Saylor sold me. That's it. It's done. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Ethereum, it's doing all right. It's doing good now, right? ETHU is a double leverage Ethereum. That thing's doing good too. But
dude, people say it's doing good now. Dude, it hasn't even gotten back to its previous all-time high. Like, I know it touched it, but it's like, it's so amazing how short, like, people are like, oh, it's doing good over the past 2 months. It hasn't even gotten to its all-time high. Bitcoin's approaching 2x its all-time high casually and has broke its all-time high like a year and a half ago at this point. It's like old news. It's just insane to me the way people operate. Real quick, we got TC coming in and saying, you're talking about merch and NFTs. Sad. Don't buy them, dude. Literally don't. That's what I was saying. Like, you're literally like the prototypical person, or whatever the guy's name is. Don't buy it. If we were talking about Rolex watches and Pokemon, would you like, people like those? People buy those. Yeah. It's just a different asset class. Don't buy it. If you don't like
Pio
it,
didn't ask me to put it up. I'm putting it up out of respect to him joining the channel. I want to make sure people know, what he does, right? So yes, Pio is not selling anything here. So
don't buy it. Just hold Bitcoin. Buy it. Like,
never, ever.
and Rod, on your point, in 20 years, really take a second and think about it. In 20 years, people are going to say they wish they bought more Bitcoin. Come on. They're not going to say they wish they bought more ETH. They're going to say, I wish I bought more Bitcoin. Because having 10 Bitcoins in 20 years, people just aren't going to understand how you did it. People won't understand how you got to 10 Bitcoins in 20 years. Like, they'll be like, what do you mean you have 10 Bitcoins? It's just going to be this amount of wealth that's incomprehensible. So no one's going to be like, oh my God, you got to like, X amount of Ethereum. Like, no, because, and I'm not saying Ethereum's not interesting or that Solana's not interesting. These things are interesting, but there's a difference between something being interesting and something being a good financial investment.
Yeah, I agree. We are at the time, so out of respect for you, I'm just going to do some closeout comments. Did you want to state anything before I do some closeout comments in general for the community? Or you think you got it?
Holding Bitcoin forever is going to change your life, and gambling is not. And thinking that Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin or that Tom Lee's Ethereum treasury company is something that you should focus on, you probably are on the wrong path. Get on the path of accumulating enormous hordes of the best assets in the world, like Bitcoin. Microstrategy is levered Bitcoin, so that counts too. It's riskier, right? Yep. Michael Saylor dies tomorrow. That's a big issue. They still own like 600 something thousand Bitcoin, so they're still in good shape for sure. But it would be better for Saylor to be around for another 20 years.
Yeah, we kind of need him. So yeah, guys, as always, none of this was financial advice today. I am not a financial advisor. Pio's not a financial advisor. No. But this video is just for fun and entertainment. So hopefully everyone had fun. Hopefully everyone was entertained. If not, oh well, right? Maybe next time we could be a little more entertaining. But yeah, we'll have Pio on. Maybe in the future when I'm retired, I'll have him on like 8 a.m. Dude, normal time for him.
I feel like you can get a bridge job that's like remote or something. Like, you don't have to dive in from the current job to all in. I feel like you can do a bridge job that's remote where you can do this at a normal time, Exactly. But it's amazing you have an audience at this time. That's unbelievable. I did not expect there to be an engaged audience at this time. That's awesome.
This is the time. I know. Some of them are West Coast too, believe it or not. So
Jesus.
I know. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you all. That being said, thank you all for joining this live. Appreciate all the questions. I know I didn't get to all of them. But we got deep into the crypto conversation, which is good because we need that. You know, I don't have enough crypto education myself. I had British Hodl on last week. I'm not sure if you saw.
Oh,
So we got
unreal.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I met him in New York, so I asked him. I'm
Great.
like,
Dude,
yeah,
can you refer me to him?
sure, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
I'll get you in touch. But yeah, his closing comments, were the 3 steps, right? Which is hilarious.
Oh, he's so funny, man. Oh, yeah. Like compared to me, I thought I might be going a little aggressive here with the audience and stuff. He literally is just like,
some
so if you
people
don't do that.
He got some bad comments last week, but it was mostly love. I think a lot of people do feel entertained by him. But like with him, what I do at the end of my videos, I do a keyword, which means like if someone watched this entire video, made it to the end, they have to prove it by typing the keyword, right, in the comments down below, either on X or on YouTube. So you're the guest. You get to pick the keyword today. It could be one word. It could be a sentence. It could be whatever you want. And they have to type that down below to prove that they made it through this whole entire hour.
Well, people can go and go skip to the end, right? But anyway, the keyword.
Hey, the commercials will come up still.
The keyword is hold.
Is it hodl or hold?
Hold.
Hold. Okay.
Hold.
Hold. All right, guys. So if you made it this far in the video and you want to prove it to Pio, myself, and everyone else, you have to type in hold on X or on YouTube, or else, again, there's no proof. But again, Pio, I appreciate you getting up at the crack of dawn. I appreciate you interviewing me a ways back, and then obviously, talking me into focusing on X, because I had gotten so many contacts on X that I couldn't get on YouTube, because you can't talk to people on YouTube. So, it's a whole different world. But thanks again for being on here. I had fun. I hope everyone else had fun. I hope you had fun.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could take a nap after this. I don't know. But
yeah, the only complaint at the time. That's the only.
Looks like you had a lot of coffee, so you might be wired for the day. So maybe go to the gym. But wow, there you go. All right, guys. Thank you, Pio, again. Thank you all for joining at the crack of dawn with us. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great day. I'm going to end this stream now.